And welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty Blinderman. I'm an ADHD coach and creator of the ADHD Friendly membership community, where everything that is in there, everything that I do, that I offer is designed to tilt the playing field so that those of us with ADHD brains are thriving with ADHD. This is episode 119.
Oh my gosh.
Next week is every 10th episode. I keep trying to play around with like, what am I going to call that 10th episode? And I had a great idea on my walk earlier this week and it's gone. I forgot. And I didn't write it down. So it's just gone, but I'll capture it. It might come back around. Yeah. But it is a 10th episode, and every 10th episode I focus on personal owner's manual. So I'm going to be talking about that next week. But this episode, I am going to be talking about accountability partners. But as always, I'm going to start with a celebration and an ADHD friendly tool.
Woohoo!
First, the celebration. So I shared towards the end of 2023 how each year I come up with a word of the year.
Yes.
And at the time, I thought my word of the year was going to be grow, because I liked that it kind of checked a lot of boxes. It didn't feel like it only focuses on one specific thing, that I could grow in my physical health. I can grow in my awareness of things. I can grow my savings. I can grow, all of my membership, all of it. I just liked how it kind of checked a lot of boxes. It could fit in a lot of areas of my life that I'm focusing on. But what I realized was what gets in our way with ADHD really consistently is we have great intentions, but we struggle to implement them. So last year my word was intentions, and I had my little charm that reminded me to live with intention, and that really worked for me. And so I built on that this year, and I added some gears, and the gears represent implementation.
Those are so
implement things. So now I play with them all the time. So I just added them, and I just like how my word that I landed on this year, which is implement, really connects with my word from last year, which was intention. So it still connects. What is my intention? And then how am I implementing it? So I go from that, what am I planning and thinking about doing, to actually going into action and doing it. It's, closing that gap between intention and action. So implementation, I got the gears charm to connect to, but it was so sparkly. And I realized I wanted to really reflect it in the logo. I did this. I updated the logo. I just changed the words to include implement in it so that it's clear everything that I offer in ADHD Friendly is about learning what works for us, implementing the things that we know work for us, and then we're thriving with ADHD. So I just felt like it was full circle.
Totally.
So if you're listening to this episode, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, ADHD Friendly, where you can view all of the tools I'm sharing in this episode 119. Okay, so that was my celebration. It's very sparkly. I'm really excited about, because again, it covers every area, because whatever I intend to do, I have to implement it to make it happen. So more on that later, as I notice how it works for me as I get into the year. All right, so the tool for this week. So this is my ADHD friendly tool. I've said this before. I don't know if you remember how one of my earlier memories when I was younger was when I was old enough to know how to read and write, but I was probably like 7 or 8 is my guess. I didn't know I had ADHD until I was in my early 40s.
Yeah.
But I knew I struggled to remember things. And so that young, one of my earliest memories from that part of my childhood is I always wished I had a built-in notepad on my arm.
Yeah.
Like I literally remember thinking, how could I invent that? How could it stay on my arm so I could always write down what I was trying to remember so I wouldn't forget? Well, I was mentioning this. Was it to you?
Well, I think you have talked to me about it before, but I think you were talking to also one of, was it your friends?
I don't remember now. It's gone.
Yeah.
My brain sometimes. That's what it does. But if the person that told me that this was a thing is listening, this is because of you. Thank you. It was a client. I just remembered it was a client.
Yeah.
They told me that it's a thing to get a tattoo of a notepad on your arm. So I'm holding up. I Googled it really quick and found, it's a thing. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like literally the embodiment of what I always intuitively knew when I was young that I needed. I used to write on my arm, I used to write on my hand all the time. I gradually went from the arm to my hand and, you know, kind of condensed it to my hand. But I just love this idea so much. If I could make it temporary so it wasn't always there, I would absolutely get behind this. And then there was another example that took it from like the little flip notepad kind of to like side, like going up the arm, like as a to-do list, which was like check boxes, which I thought was one of the things is buy beer for Rob. I'm like, okay, they're in a different place in their life than I am. But I just love that idea. And so I wanted to again share, this was one of my favorite things from 2022. My little notebook. So this is kind of what my little ADHD friendly tool has been for a number of years now. I have these little notebooks everywhere. I have one in my car, I have one in my purse, I have one next to my bed, near where I sit and read so I can write down ideas as they occur to me. Just has a little place for a pen, which he's not in there right now. I don't know what I did with the pen. Usually my pen is nicely tucked in there, so I always have it to write with. I just grabbed this out of my purse, so it's probably
so cute,
wiggled its way out and it's on the bottom of my purse. But it's kind of that embodiment where it's at my fingers reach. I write things down, and then I transfer them if I need to put it in my calendar or into a list or take action on it. But it just is a place for me to capture things. And I always have one nearby so I can essentially write on my arm without writing on my arm. So I just wanted to share that as a little tool to explore. If you also have impacted working memory, what would you do to remember the things that come across your radar so that you're able to reconnect with them and follow through and implement what you're intending? Hello, friends. I'm ADHD Friendly Girl. Are you overwhelmed, unmotivated, run down? Do you stop before you start? The answer to your challenges can be found at ADHD Friendly. ADHD Friendly is where we make the doing easier. Join ADHD Friendly today and start tilting the playing field in favor of your ADHD brain and start thriving. ADHDfriendly.com, where intention meets action. Now for the topic. I'm going to kind of go into the topic's accountability partners. I felt the need to kind of tease out how I see body doubling and accountability partners, where they overlap, but also where they're individual different strategies to support ADHD. So first, I'm going to give you a definition. This is from Wikipedia, which I just love how much more reliable that has become. I remember it used to be like a joke. Wikipedia. Did you look that up on Wiki? Now it's like, I got it on Wikipedia. I'm going to read this to you. So their definition is accountability partners are someone who supports another person to keep a commitment or maintain progress on a desired goal. So what that looks like in practice can vary depending on what you're working on.
Sure.
So what I defined as the difference between body doubling and an accountability partner. So body doubling, the definition for body doubling is having another person to help start and stay focused on the task and reduce distractions. Body doubling is that person being present either in person or through like a Zoom call, a video call, during the entire time you're doing a task.
Okay.
So they're literally doubling with you. They can be working on something completely different than you, but you're both present working on something at the same time. Accountability partners could hold each other accountable while working together at the same time, like body doubling, but also it can happen without ever being together. My example of that is, I shared before, one of the things that really worked for me last year in 2023 to keep up with my intention to walk outside 23 minutes every day of 2023 was a friend of mine also decided when I shared what I was doing that she wanted to do it as well. And we decided we would just send each other a quick thumbs up text when we were done each day. That was it. We had no regular ongoing meeting. It was just the little, hey,
emoji.
Did it, got it done. And sometimes we might comment on the weather because we live in the same area. So I'd be like, hey, it's going to rain, and a little bit later, got it in early. So we kind of like, like maybe make each other aware of what was coming up if you wanted to check it off earlier so that it was a little easier to get it done. But there was no other structure than that. It was just the accountability of knowing I told this person I'm going to check in each day when I'm done, and they're doing the same. And more, I mean, I can tell you at least, I would say 8 to 10 times throughout the year, I would have completely forgotten my plan, as solid as it was,
Yeah.
if I didn't see her text that
text.
she was done. And I was like, and sometimes I got a little competitive, even though it wasn't really with her. It was just, I want to get my check mark in before she gets her, just
Totally.
so I didn't have that kind of feeling like, oh, she sent me hers, I need to send her mine. So it was like pulling me into it. So that's an example of accountability partners where there's no body doubling involved at all. It's literally using each other for accountability. It's telling somebody you're going to do something that you feel a strong enough connection to that it's going to support you to actually do it.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I wrote down a couple of examples that I thought I could just kind of run through and share how it could look if you're body doubling or if you're just using an accountability partner. So maybe running errands. I love to grab one of my kids to go with me if I have to, go grocery shopping or do a couple of stops, because it makes it more interesting. They're literally body doubling with me and helping me to get them done. And I'm not alone, just using my own energy. I always think of it as kind of tapping into somebody else's energy and using that current to support me and my intention. So that's an example of body doubling, but it could be maybe I tell you I'm going to go grocery shopping or I'm going to go run my errands and drop something at the post office, and I will send you a text to let you know I'm done. Or I'll send you a picture of myself at the library. If I told you I'm going to go to the library and get my, things done, maybe I send you a picture of myself at the library. That's a common thing I have my students do if they're looking for that. I'm like, if you want, you can send me a picture when you're there. And it's kind of that
I'm doing it.
confirmation that here it is, I'm here, and here's the evidence that I'm here. If that works for you, I always say the important thing about accountability is, I always call this one of those Goldilocks things. What's the right amount of accountability for you? If it's too much, it's going to overwhelm and get in your way. If it's too little, it might be like, they're not even going to notice if I check in with them, or they don't care and they're not going to say anything whether or not I do. So exactly, you may not do it. Another example is maybe you have a goal to write an article every day, or read 10 pages or something. That's not as easily done with a body double. That's like a consistent, kind of like my walk. Unless you can do something with that person, it's not as easy to do that with a body double, but it is easy to do that with an accountability partner, where you can say, let's check in each day when you've done that. And it can be even like through like an app where like you check in. I know like one of the things when I was trying to create a more regular walking routine years ago, my husband got me a Fitbit and circled me into a loop that updates. Everybody in the group could see how many steps you've taken that day. And I was like, no, I never wore it again. I was like, no, thank you.
Like, why are you keeping
that for me was completely uncomfortable. It was way too much accountability for me. I was like, I wouldn't mind him knowing, but the way he set it up, and I was just like, I don't remember who the everyone was. It was just no, thank you. It was immediate block for me. So again, it's that noticing what level of accountability works for you so you can ask for what you need. What research shows is often it's not a family member or a friend, but I would say it depends.
Okay.
So I have a number of students I work with where a parent is actually a really good partner. I have other students I work with, parents are not a good accountability partner. It's the energy that would come with it, more like it's nagging instead of supportive. So thinking about who is the right person for you, and it can vary depending on what you're asking for the accountability for. So if you're looking for accountability for exercise, that list of options might be very different from looking for somebody for support with maybe saving money or something else. So it's very specific to different tasks sometimes. So one other thing that I wanted to highlight is accountability partners can hold that thread longer. So body doubling, it's typically like, we're going to body double for this amount of time today to do this specific thing. Accountability partners can be like I shared, even like for my walking goal, it can go over the course of days, weeks, months. Although I have people that I know use this, that check in like every week and have like a quick, like, we're going to like talk for 15 minutes and check in on where we are with this and identify our next step. One of the things I offer in my membership community, ADHD Friendly, is accountability partner sessions. It's one of my bonus sessions that we meet typically 3 times a month, a week apart, where we send an intention and then we check in on how it's going, but we also build in time to body double. So it's kind of blending both. But it's why I was interested in kind of teasing out what is the difference between an accountability partner and a body double, and where are they kind of similar, and where do they also work individually, so you can think about, what do I need here, and get what you need. Okay, how to find a good fit for your accountability partner. So I talked about how the Goldilocks, right? Finding that right amount.
Mhm.
What I tend to do and what I encourage my clients to do is when you think about a person that you're exploring for an accountability partner, notice how you feel intuitively, like literally do a check-in and notice, do you feel resistance? If you feel resistance, if it's a little bit of resistance, it could be good because that might mean that person is going to hold me accountable and I'm feeling uncomfortable because I know they're not going to just
Let me
miss.
slack.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's literally upping your game, which is what you need in accountability.
Yes.
But if you feel resistance, like no. Like even if you know if you ask them, it's gonna backfire and it's gonna make it harder for you to do the thing. Pay attention to the resistance because it will get in the way. Notice if the person you feel like you're looking for that partnership with, if you feel like you can be honest with them. It's not gonna work if you are comfortable kind of being like, yeah, I did it, and you didn't.
Oh, sure. I didn't think
Right.
about
So
that.
so really thinking about what are the qualities that this person connects with you
Yeah.
over so that you're noticing if it's helpful. And then do you want to give them permission to hold you accountable? So it could be, again, noticing if it's a good fit, asking for what you need. For some people, it might be like, you know what, I have no interest in keeping on top of you. I don't want to be your accountability partner. So be mindful of that. If what you're asking is going to be work for them, think about how you can take that pressure off. So it might be like, hey, I'm going to check in each day with a text, letting you know I did it.
Yeah.
If you want to check in, if you haven't heard from me, you can, but I don't expect you to. But you're telling them that you'll check in that way. But if you need that check-in and that person's open to it, ask for what you need. So it might be like, hey, I'm going to check in by 3 o'clock and let you know I did it. If you didn't, would you be open to checking with me to see where I am with my plan? Again, that's a place to notice. Are you comfortable? Is that a relationship? You can ask for what you need. And if not that person, if you know you need that, where else can you get that accountability? It also might be barter. So maybe because you're asking for a little bit more of a commitment and a follow-up, maybe you're asking, is there something you're trying to get done? I'd be happy to partner with you. So now you're feeling like you're not just asking for more, you're leveling it out by,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm happy to be your accountability partner if that's something that you feel like you could keep up with.
Yeah. Some give and
So
take.
yeah, so like you check in with me, I'll check in with you if that works. There are paid options. So I've learned about a couple of
What?
these. Yeah. Oh, come on. Anything that people need, there's a way to pay for it. So, and I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. If you need it at a level and you just don't have people in your life, or there's people, you don't have somebody you're comfortable because it's a very
Right.
sensitive thing, right? So if
Mhm.
you're like, yeah, I don't have anybody, I'd be willing to share what I'm working on and have them be accountability partners for me.
I love that that's an option because, yeah, then it's like a stranger, but maybe that's what you need to kind of keep you accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the one that I know most about, I've not used it myself, so I want to be really clear. I'm not recommending this. I'm just sharing. I've had a couple of clients over the years that have used this, and it was interesting enough that I explored what does it look like. And so I checked again to just update how much the fees are for this. So it's called Boss as a Service, BOSS as a service. So basically, this is very common for entrepreneurs, people that don't have a boss. So it's basically you're outsourcing a boss. You're basically financially kind of like paying somebody just to act as that stronger tether. So if you have things you need to do within your own business, but you're really struggling because it's just you're accountable to,
Yeah.
it's, you know what, I'm going to pay this other organization to be my boss and tell them what I need to do. And they are going to hold you accountable. And the part of this that's interesting is they require proof. So you send a list of the things that you intend to do, and then the proof that you've done it. So it might be you send a picture of your completed task,
Yeah. Okay.
and so it's part of what you work out with them when you set it up. It's $25 a month for a monthly, like,
That seems reasonable.
and it's $60 if you pay for 3 months, and then it goes up from like
Yeah.
you get like little like lower prices for the longer commitment. But the interesting thing that they offer, and I remember the first time I heard about this, I get it. I kind of struggle. So I really think this is a very specific person that this would work for. For a
Right.
lot of us, this would create another financial strain. But they partner with a service called BeMinder, where you can opt. I don't think it's required in their platform, but you can opt for a financial consequence if you don't do what you've intended. And so
Oh.
literally, if you don't send proof at the day and time that you said you would, they fine you
Oh
and
my
it
gosh.
automatically gets charged. So like you pay it without any way to stop it. And I don't know how exactly that works, but I remember the first time I had a client that told me about this, I was immediately uncomfortable because I thought, this is definitely high stakes accountability, but there is a very real, it's like having a late fee from your bank or credit card if you're,
Totally.
or overdrawn fee. It's a real financial consequence. So I'm really torn about that because I feel like we get enough financial consequences in our lives with ADHD. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing to offer,
Right.
but I'm sharing it because it is something that is out there. But with a huge caution of, be really aware of, and I don't know how it works, like how low, like if you can be like, oh, I'll pay $1 fine, but
Yeah.
I know the whole premise is it needs to be enough that it's supposed to create the urgency for you. Like, I need to get this done, so I'm not paying the fine. I can't tell you how many times I've purchased library books over the years because the fine just became more than the book itself. So I don't think that would work for me,
Right.
but it is one thing that's often. Another thing I found when I was researching some of the options for this podcast is apparently now there are people on Fiverr that offer this. So yeah, I don't know exactly how that works, but it came up and I was like, okay, that's interesting. There's a number of people offering accountability partnership on Fiverr. So that's fiverr.com. If that's, and I have no idea how efficient that is and
Right.
whether or not, people are like, oh, this really works well. I have no idea, but I have never seen that before. So I was like, of course it's growing in different areas because more and more people I think are becoming aware, especially after the pandemic and a lot of people are working from home. It's really hard to create structure when you're on your own to follow through with your plans. So the other thing that is out there is, and full disclosure, I am promoting my membership platform. That is one of the things that we're doing right now is throwing structure around that accountability partner piece. So if that's something that would interest you, I invite you to check that out on ADHDfriendly.com for more information. Okay, and finally, I talked a little bit about this, but thinking about if you are looking for an accountability partner, what structure will work for you? So I shared the simple text with the thumbs up with my walking partner, right? Where we weren't walking together. It wasn't body doubling. It was accountability check-ins with just a quick thumbs up and a text. What would work for you? So it might be a weekly meeting. It might be once a month. It might be having an actual phone call or a email. Maybe you guys have an email going back and forth that you send. Could be a Zoom if you want to see each other, a Zoom call. Some prompts when you think about when you check in, what are you checking in on? So it might be letting the person know how your plan went, letting them know what still needs to be done or what you need to tweak so that you have that chance to almost process through what you're noticing is working or isn't working so that you're continuing to evolve your accountability partnership and making it work for you. And then review the progress. So with your partner, again, if this is over a longer period of time, really being honest about what's working or isn't working with the partnership. So it might be, especially if you're supporting each other, you can be like, okay, if I feel like let's say, I'm going to use my example with texting my friend. If I felt like the pressure was that I was needing to do more than a thumbs up. If I felt like I had to write something each time or have something funny I would absolutely have not kept it up. There were definitely times where I texted things, but there were more days than not that it was just a thumbs up and I was done. So being honest about what's working, what isn't. If you feel an expectation that is draining you, we have to be able to be honest about that. So we can say, you know what, you're checking in, but you're checking in before it's actually due. And that's draining my energy to do it, whatever it is. So being honest about what is and isn't working so that it's continuing to work for you. And then ask for what you need. So if you're exploring options around accountability partners and somebody's like wanting a daily call and you're like, I can't do a daily call, but I could do a weekly call. Like being honest about what you can sustain so that, again, you're asking for what you need, but you're also having a boundary around what just isn't sustainable for you.
Absolutely.
And then start small and experiment. Remember, with everything I share, take what works for you, leave the rest behind. If this is something that you would like to put a little bit more structure in, start with something small. Start noticing who would you ask that you feel like would be a good fit as an accountability partner, and just start and notice what you like or don't like about it. Some of the benefits of accountability partners are it makes it easier to start things because it's not just you. Right. So it kind of has that body doubling impact, even though that person doesn't have to be physically or over video with you. You have a connection to your plan over time. That can really be hard for us with ADHD. So it kind of stretches that time horizon if you're checking in on how the progress is going. And then it also is an opportunity to celebrate that progress. You're like, I did it. It's not just you kind of like, all right, yeah, I did it. It can feel really good. Like I remember like, especially on days where it felt like a harder check to get done. It was really satisfying to send that and know somebody else knew I did it. And it was very satisfying beyond just doing it for myself. So sharing that success with your partner can be really motivating. All right, so that's it for accountability partners. I am going to share a quick quote from We Are at Quote Time with my Kevin Kelly book, Excellent Advice for Living. All right, this is what Kevin says. When you get invited to do something in the future, ask yourself, would I do this tomorrow? Not too many promises will pass that immediacy filter. Sorry, I said that in a way that was probably hard to process. So when you think about the immediacy of it, like would I do this tomorrow? If you were like, hey, Patty, I want to go shopping downtown, would I do it tomorrow? No, right? But if you're asking me, would I do it in a week or a month? I don't know what that was if you heard that. I might say yes, because it's so far away that I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So I love that as a way to kind of check in and say, okay, but would I say yes to it tomorrow? And not in terms of your schedule necessarily, just would you be interested in doing it immediately? I like that little immediacy filter is what you call it. All right. So that's it for episode 119, where I talked about my word of the year, implement, how I use notepads as my ADHD friendly hack instead of writing on my arm. And we talked about accountability partners. I invite you just to explore where you could use one. And if you have used them and you have some other strategies or tips, please post in the comments, episode 119. We all learn from each other. So the more experiences that we have to connect with, the better they'll serve us. That's it for this episode. Take what works for you, leave the rest behind. Until next time, tally ho.